if you feel like you are more spiritual and not religious, this video is most likely for you. And you probably are doing things correctly with your spirituality, but not completely correctly. And it's making you to have inconsistent manifestations. If you do a few things differently, then you can get some consistent manifestations going. And I'm gonna tell you what I learned. So I come from a Baptist Christian background. And I think when I turned spiritual, one of the things that happened was I went into a whole big world. It was like the Wild Wild West. There was no structure, there was no system, there was no recipe there for me to follow. So the challenge was, I'm so free and I have so much more information. It's information rich. I have so much more to play with. But the problem was I didn't know where the pieces went. So what I noticed is, if you are a spiritual person, being a spiritual person, you have advantages because you're so free and you're not trapped by dogma. And you're not trapped by people making you feel guilty and shaming you. But at the same time, you don't have that same structure, that same community, that same camaraderie that you had in a religion. And if you've never been religious, you don't even know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to tell you some of the advantages that religion has that you can implement into your spirituality without actually being religious. So here it is. Number one, get a community of people who are serious about applying spiritual principle. Get in a community. Why? Because there's a principle written in Napoleon Hill's book. It's called the mastermind principle. People do not know what this principle means. When you have a mastermind, a lot of people talk about, I have a mastermind, and they get together with people twice a year or something like that. A mastermind has to meet twice a week. If you don't meet with a mastermind twice a week, the energy of that mastermind disintegrates. It's a minimum of twice a week. That's what was found. So people who meet twice a year, it's not a mastermind. So if you meet multiple times a week with people, then you develop a synergistic mind, a third mind that's more powerful than either individual minds in the group. And this explains spiritually and consciously why when people are in religion, a lot of times they can get results just from believing in something that you may think is false. For instance, a lot of people don't believe in Jesus, but for the people who do, if they believe with another group of people, even although it may not be Jesus that's doing it, it's the belief they have in their mind that creates a synergistic effect between all minds. They at least have faith. And that happens when you come into a group. It makes those thoughts stronger. So if you took the same concept called a mastermind and applied it to your spiritual life and got into a group where there are people seriously applying principles, then it could change your results dramatically. So that's one thing that religion has that can be used in spirituality. The second thing that religion has a book, usually one text that everybody reads from, and so they speak with the same language. Language is extremely important. And sometimes in the spiritual world, we have so many words for so many things that nobody knows what each other is talking about. Or it might be variations of definitions. So I might be talking about consciousness and you think that means one thing and I think it means another. Or I might be talking about energetics. That might mean one thing to you and something completely different to me. And this is an issue because there's no way to get on the same page with other people without having the same language. This is one of those advantages that religion has that you can start to use in your spiritual practice. So one of the languages I use the language of astrology a lot of times to communicate my concepts. So in my groups, a lot of times we'll talk about South Node or North Node. The South Node is a position in the astrology chart that explains what your karmic correction is. So it's the place that you're pulled back to over and over and over again. And you always get pulled back there and it doesn't fulfill you. Even although you may be good at it, it doesn't fulfill you. And the North Node is the place that you go and that your soul wants to go, but it's uncomfortable. But if you go there, it does fulfill you. So it wants to do that in this lifetime. If you want to get a reading from me, it's a link in the bio. But the way that that North Node and South Node works is it tells you a language for understanding your soul. So when we talk about the soul, I talk with the language that my people can understand. And if I didn't, then we wouldn't be on the same page. So language is like a shortcut, and it's a connector for the whole group. And this is one of the advantages that religion has, because religion has scriptures that everybody can say. And when we refer to a scripture, we can have a conversation about those words. So that's one thing that religion has, that spirituality, if you implement it for your spirituality, then it'll work for you too. Third thing, okay, here's the third thing. The religions have consistency. They have a consistency to it. Spirituality is very inconsistent a lot of times. So what I mean by that is this. In spirituality, where is the accountability? You have to be accountable with yourself. And that's how it is anywhere. But it's very challenging to be just accountable to yourself if you have blind spots that you can't see. So when you have other people around you who are practicing the same system and understanding the same system of thinking, then what ends up happening is they can help check you when you get out of balance. Problem with religion, though, is it becomes dogmatic, and it's a lot of people who are not even, they're not even practicing what they preach, and it gets out of hand. So you got people who judging others who don't even practice themselves. But when it comes to the spiritual community, if you got sincere people who are really practicing, let's say it's meditation, somebody can realize, okay, for instance, me and Alicia, if Alicia is unconscious and in her feelings and in a certain emotion, it's my responsibility to hold space and allow her to go through her experience, and vice versa. So that's one of the rules we have, and it's consistent. It's not that I'm going to correct her and tell her she's in her ego and she doesn't tell me I'm in my ego. It's still our responsibility, but we recognize it in each other. We can hold space for each other when the other person is out of whack. So this is just something that religion has that you can implement in your spiritual practice that'll make it more consistent and maybe get you a little bit better results. So that's that. If you like these tips, then come back to the channel. I love y'all.